Imagine living a life free from guilt, where you no longer carry the burden of past mistakes, regrets, or things left unsaid. Think of a moment when guilt has weighed heavily on you, perhaps for something you said in haste or something you didn't do when you felt you should have. Now imagine being able to release that weight, to let go of the constant nagging feeling that you've done something wrong, or that you're not good enough. This is the life Alan Watts invites us to consider. He urges us to see guilt not as something we need to bear, but as a false weight that can be shed. Today, we'll explore the wisdom of Alan Watts on why guilt isn't necessary and how, by letting it go, we can begin living fully and freely. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to learn could change the way you see yourself, your mistakes, and the world around you. Welcome to Elevate Your Life, where we bring you powerful insights to help you elevate your thinking, choices, and entire way of life. If you've ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of regret, this video is for you. By the end, you'll understand how guilt holds you back and how Alan Watts' teachings can set you free. Before we jump in, remember to subscribe to our channel for more life-changing ideas. We're here to help you live a more fulfilled, present, and peaceful life. Alan Watts often emphasized that guilt is something we learn, not something we're born with. From the time we're children, we are conditioned by society, by the people around us, and by institutions like religion to feel guilt. It's ingrained in us that guilt is necessary to keep us on the right path. But what if that isn't true? What if guilt isn't essential to morality? Watts challenges the idea that guilt makes us better people. He argued that guilt doesn't lead to personal growth, it only creates emotional pain, keeping us stuck in the past. Instead of guiding us toward becoming better human beings, it locks us in a prison of our own making, replaying moments of regret over and over again. So why do we allow guilt to dominate our lives when it doesn't serve us? Imagine how much time you've spent in your life feeling guilty. Think of all the energy that's been drained by focusing on things you can't change, by reliving moments where you wish you had done something differently. Watts teaches us that this focus on guilt is misplaced. Instead of ruminating on what we did wrong, we should be learning from our experiences without punishing ourselves. Mistakes are natural, they're part of the human experience. Watts reminds us that we are all imperfect and that it's through our imperfections that we grow. By letting go of guilt, we create space for personal development, for learning from our past rather than being trapped by it. When you stop seeing mistakes as failures and start seeing them as opportunities for growth, everything changes. One of the most profound ideas Alan Watts presents is that guilt prevents us from living in the present moment. When we are consumed by guilt, our minds are constantly pulled into the past. We're so busy thinking about what we did wrong, how we could have acted differently, that we miss out on what's happening right now. Life, according to Watts, is to be lived in the present, but guilt robs us of that opportunity. Every time we allow guilt to dominate our thoughts, we are giving away precious moments of our lives to something we cannot change. Watts encourages us to let go of guilt, not as an act of avoidance, but as an act of self-compassion and mindfulness. It's about realizing that holding on to guilt only prolongs suffering. The key to a happier, more fulfilled life is to live fully in the now, free from the shackles of the past. Consider how guilt shapes your relationships. How often have you held back from truly connecting with others because of guilt? Maybe you've hurt someone in the past, or maybe you've been hurt. Guilt keeps you from moving forward, from healing those wounds and building meaningful connections. When we carry guilt into our relationships, we bring along all the baggage of the past. We can't be fully present with someone else if we're constantly beating ourselves up for things we did or didn't do. Alan Watts encourages us to approach relationships with an open heart, free from guilt. When we let go of guilt, we are more open to love, compassion, and understanding. We stop judging ourselves so harshly, and in turn, we stop judging others. This is how we create deeper, more fulfilling connections, by living in the present, unburdened by the guilt of the past. Watts also spoke about how guilt can be a form of self-sabotage. When we feel guilty, we often engage in self-punishment, believing that we deserve to suffer for our mistakes. But this creates a vicious cycle where guilt leads to more negative actions, which in turn lead to more guilt. We begin to believe that we are inherently flawed, that we don't deserve happiness, success, or love. Watts saw this as one of the most damaging effects of guilt, that it prevents us from reaching our full potential. By letting go of guilt, we stop sabotaging ourselves. We stop believing that we are unworthy, and we start embracing our ability to grow, to change, and to create a better life for ourselves. The teachings of Alan Watts also encourage us to examine the sources of our guilt. Where does it come from? Is it genuinely about something we believe is wrong, or is it imposed on us by external forces? Watts often criticized societal norms and religious teachings that instill a sense of guilt in people for things that are natural or unavoidable. He urged us to question the beliefs we hold and to ask ourselves whether they truly serve us. Are we feeling guilty because we've genuinely wronged someone, or because society has taught us to feel guilty about certain behaviors? By understanding the origins of our guilt, we can begin to dismantle it. We can choose to reject the guilt that doesn't serve us and focus instead on living in alignment with our own values and principles. It's essential to recognize that guilt, when left unchecked, can lead to anxiety, depression, and other emotional struggles. When we carry the weight of guilt for too long, it affects our mental health in profound ways. Watts recognized this and saw the act of letting go of guilt as a form of self-care, a way to nurture our emotional and mental well-being. Letting go of guilt is not about shirking responsibility, it's about taking care of ourselves so that we can live more fully and more authentically. It's about recognizing that holding on to guilt does not change the past, but it does diminish our ability to embrace the future. By releasing guilt, we free ourselves to experience joy, peace, and fulfillment. As you reflect on the teachings of Alan Watts, consider how guilt has played a role in your own life. How has it held you back? How has it shaped your decisions and your relationships? Now imagine what your life could look like without that guilt. Imagine the freedom, the peace, the sense of possibility that comes with letting go. Watts invites us to step into that freedom, to live without the unnecessary burden of guilt, and to embrace life in all its imperfection. Because in the end, guilt is temporary, but the lessons we learn from our mistakes last forever. Thank you for watching, and if this message resonated with you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel Elevate Your Life for more transformative insights. Share your thoughts in the comments. How has guilt impacted your life, and how are you working to let it go? We're here to help you on your journey to self-acceptance, growth, and living without the weight of guilt. Let's elevate our lives together.